Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review of Sword Art Online Alicization War of the Underworld. And this was pretty much the continuation of Season 3. Now, granted, it was chopped up into, halvesies, and that where it ended with the introduction of certain things, I just waited for it to kind of be completed in order to do my review of it, because otherwise it'd be like, yeah, we're kind of waiting for this to be over. So, the first half of this season deals with the titular War of the Underworld. Now, granted, it gets extended for the whole thing, but we pretty much continue off from where we had left off previously, where Kirito pretty much got zapped like a mofo, and then he's pretty much in a coma kind of place and missing his arm. Evidently, Alice had pretty much quit being an Integrity Knight and was trying to take care of Kirito as much as possible. He is not completely comatose where he's just completely zonked out. He does make certain movements and does vocalize certain words and everything, but he's not completely there. And she's trying her best to kind of take care of him, but of course, in Rulid, one of her Integrity Knights that she had pretty much had as an apprentice tries to get her back in because of what's going on with the Dark Territory and everything. And of course, on cue, goblins start attacking, and she's like, eat me. And they're like, oh, jeez. So she's able to push them back and pretty much get the Rulid people into safety, but she's like, all right, we've got to deal with this. That then ties into one of the kind of dumber aspects, in that we get that evidently the U.S. government has gotten the information that they're working with the Floodlights and everything, and they send a team under the auspices of the NSA. Now, I understand that if you don't know what's going on with the certain intelligence communities, why I'd be like, that's kind of weird to have a negative for that. Well, I understand that there's certain overlap with ones, but it's like, you'd rather have it be like the CIA. And then, usually, the U.S. government would probably be working at least closely enough to at least have people already looking into that kind of thing. I don't know. It's just like, okay, they're going to send a strike team to kind of take over and take them for AI stuff. I'm like, okay. Granted, I understand it's just basically the premise, but it then starts this whole kind of thing that I almost kind of find is unnecessary to a degree. I was more interested in seeing more of what was going on with the AIs and all that, and they mainly were just throwing in kind of stuff of what they thought that SAO usually has. My whole kind of issue with this season is they take a step forward and going oh, okay, an actual virtualized world, what it means to have a soul. Are the Floodlights actual people? Are they not? And then throwing in, we got a dude who eats souls. What? Who talks about eating souls? Okay, so he's the bad guy now. Oh yeah, look, there's also gonna be Kirito harem kind of stuff going on, and another tentacle kind of rapey scene. Fucking wouldn't be Sword Art Online at this point without any of that stuff, but it pops up this is what Sword Art usually has. I'm like, yeah, and you're about to kind of shit the bed on what's going on, because in the beginning, I like how they kind of were fleshing out all the various different kind of Integrity Knights, as they are pretty much going to be vastly overwhelmed with what's going on with the Dark Territory. Because, see, that comes into the issue. There's an endgame purpose that was actually done in by this one researcher who pretty much got waifu trapped by the administrator. I say waifu trapped because I don't know what else to really say. He fell for her, and was like, oh god, I love your sadisticness and all this stuff. It's like, okay, and you don't even get that until the second half, and be like, and then it explains the whole explodey eye thing, because evidently Kikuoka and the rest of the people are like, Higa is like, why the fuck would that make their eye explode? Oh, Douche McNozzle wants to get tappy ass on administrator. And then, of course, he tries to pretty much stop them from helping Kirito, because Kirito killed his waifu ass. And then he falls off and dies. Such strange shit occurs here. But that's going forward and has. However, we see that the NSA team pops up and tries to take over the Ocean Turtle and are successful in getting the main control room, but are unable to take over the vast majority of it and are unable to get Alice's Floodlight. Honestly, it's kind of weird because at this point, a lot of. Not a lot, but a couple of them have, like, eye popped themselves. And you would think. Now, granted, the main thing is that they can't get to the one place to pretty much get the fucking Floodlight Cube. That's their biggest kind of main issue, because they're just, like, staying still with the security forces in the sub-control room trying to figure out how to stop these people. While they're like, well, why don't we just go in and grab it? I'm like, okay. Fucking do it. Because it has to be ejected through this certain thing, but evidently it can go to either or, I guess. But they're still like, oh, we gotta go in and get it. I'm like, are you sure there's no other kind of, like, actual real-world ways to kind of do this? Granted, I understand that the whole premise is the virtual world kind of stuff, and they're pretty much trying to force it into this, but it's like, you're kind of complicating this to a point where I'm like, alright, just do you do. So, this initiates Gabriel Miller and his buddy Visago to go in. Miller as the Dark Emperor Vecta, and Visago as just like a Dark Knight dude, and they rally the Dark Territory forces to go and attack the human world the human realm to get Alice. And this then starts off the whole kind of War of the Underworld kind of shit going on. And the thing is, when Gabriel's at the back and not doing anything, and we're more seeing the characters, like, kind of fleshing out, just like, okay, this is the Dark Territory, and they think that the humans hate them for no reason whatsoever. It's like, oh, you put in these stupid-ass systems, and it fucking creates this stuff. And we see them clashing and everything, and it's pretty good action scene, pretty good CGI and everything, and animation going on in the whole thing. Seeing different kind of, like, powers that the Integrity Knights have versus the people in the Dark Territory. Because we got pugilists who are, like, mainly fists. We got orc people. We got the, of course, witch woman who later uses her tentacle magic to siphon the life force out of Leafa, because we gotta have that shot. Also, it helps out that Leafa is pretty much granted, like, almost like unlimited durability because of the kind of god person that she got put in. Because at this point, they are in characters that have been built for that world, not that they have brought in and converted any other characters. That becomes important because in the second half, they convert characters in. So, the human forces are able to kind of keep it at a nice kind of standstill because they pretty much do a Thermopylae kind of play to force them into a place where the Dark Territory's numbers will be more of a disadvantage than an advantage. Now, granted, they still keep getting, like, screwed up and everything, and they start finding out that they're trying to go after Alice, so they're trying to lead the Dark Territory forces away from the rest of the main human forces. However, our group of plucky Wrath employees are like, we kind of have to not do this. This is not a good thing. So Asuna's like, I'm going to go in and I'm going to help out. So she gets logged in pretty much as a god character mode and is able to vastly affect the terrain, like doing giant ravines and whatnot. However, this puts incredible strain on her Floodlight, so she's got a limited number of times she can do it before she fucking cracks herself completely. So, it's cool to kind of see it, and it's cool to kind of see Asuna taking the kind of lead on that thing. However, she gets in, and then we get, oh god, we love Kirito kind of thing. Now, I don't hate people having, like, a fan club and everything. My biggest kind of issue is that almost every female character that Kirito comes in contact with auto falls in love with him. Like, it's not just, like, crush territory. I can get them having a crush on him, but it's almost full-fledged, like, I only have eyes for Kirito. And I'm like, he's with us, and goddammit, and they've got fucking AI Yui, and it's just, because they have this thing where Alice and their two trainees, and the one chick that actually trained Kirito in that world, and Asuna, and it's just, statistically speaking, like, one of y'all there's got to be like, I don't care that much about him, statistically, because you can't just be like, woman, 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 penny drop, penny drop, penny drop, penny drop. It's like, what? The ever loving fuck. So I'm like, alright, it's just part of the whole damn deal. You were kind of filming through, but fine, go ahead. So they need to get Alice to the world end to alter to pretty much log her ass out and make sure that she's safe. Because this is showing that, like, hey, AI's actually working everything. However, most of the people be like, yeah, we could make them kill people. What? No. If they're actually fully realized sentient beings, you still have the whole kind of thing of being like, oh, that would be just slavery of a different kind of being. That shit ain't cool. And especially when you're forcing them to pretty much kill shit and then get blown up and potentially pieced back together all the time. Otherwise, you're just trading one death for another for some other being. But they don't really go into that too much until pretty much the end. It's like, okay. So they're trying to figure out what's going on. Of course, Asuna kind of needs backup because Miller is going to do. She's like, I got all this stuff. But of course, they don't have anything really big until they pretty much have Sinon and Leafa pretty much. They go to the Roppongi office. Roppongi? I think so. Another Wrath office and log them in with God mode kind of stuff. Now, granted, Sinon's entrance was pretty badass. It's like, boom, suck it. And of course, she links up with Asuna, and they're like, all right, we gotta keep this going on. Miller's like, ooh, yeah. Because we get his backstory that he's like, doesn't really have a soul and pretty much has been killing people to eat souls. And he kind of gets his kicks off of doing that in virtual worlds as well. But he then kind of goes to the nth degree because he's like, oh, look at all these souls in here. I'm killing them all. And it's like, shit, this kind of fucking sucks. And of course, Sinon and Leafa aren't the only ones. Lisbeth actually goes into AOL. AOL. ALO. Oh, shit, that was a weird one. AOL. Interesting slip there, but ALO to pretty much try to recruit the people. Because, now granted, they'd be logging in and they'd be converting their characters, but if they died there, they'd lose them and have to start over. A lot of the people are like, that's kind of fucked up. But a lot of the other people are like, they're pretty much murdering people. And if I lose my giant ass sword that I like grinded for 70 hours, I think I could probably take that hit because I'd have other people to fucking help me get that shit back. Granted, there's a long fucking time. And that's just an example. But I'm like, I really wouldn't give a shit because they're killing people. I don't know. I guess I'm weird that way. But it was pretty cool to actually see Lisbeth do something. Because they have a really fucking hard time within Sword Art Online. They're like, they usually give Kirito a lot of the spotlight. Now granted, one of the great positives I have of this is that they went to other characters and let them have the spotlight. Granted, they pretty much had to fucking thunder punch Kirito to fucking do it. But we got Asuna pretty much leading human forces. We see Alice doing the same kind of thing in her kind of role. Seeing other characters kind of take up and do something. To have that pretty much kind of get a little bit not wiped out completely, but sidelined again because this is Sword Art Online. And this is Kirito's show. And I'm like, okay, but you can kind of do this better. You've actually been doing it better. And then you just... Well... Asuna's not able to wake him up out of his funk, so they're like, alright, fine, whatever. They're trying to figure out all this stuff as they're pretty much getting beat down. They're pretty much getting ready to, like, put those characters in because the attacking force on the Ocean Turtle has decided to open up the Underworld and say that, like, oh yeah, our game's beta is being hacked by all these Japanese players. Come on in. They get U.S. players first, like 20,000, and then like Chinese and Korean. And here's where we get into like plot issues. Now, granted, in this world, internet could be fucking amazing. I get that. We kind of have to see that because I'm thinking, you just fucking This fucking thing like moves around and does its own thing. Now, granted, it's got its own intranet, most likely. It has probably some limited internet capabilities, but if it's kind of like a top secret government research kind of thing, why the fuck did they even have to get a physical presence to even get there? I mean, they could have just Hackerman the goddamn thing, sent in Gabriel and his dudes, fucking had her into some kind of terminal thing, and fucking uplinked it to a damn satellite and all that, and put it into some kind of receptacle that could have stored a flux light. Ah, shit. I'm starting to break it again. Because I didn't even really think about that until I started asking that stuff of like, okay, how are they able to load in those many players without any kind of lag? I'm like, that. The thing is, it's close enough to our timeline that I'm like, they gotta fucking have such an advancement into internet and wireless technologies that this wouldn't be a problem, because otherwise, I've played with other people online before. And granted, it's been Xbox Live, but as an example. And if it's like somewhere kind of like weird and out there, lag has been completely horrible. I could just imagine fucking this force of like 20,000 people. If they're not even in the same area, if they're like spread out in the U.S. and all that shit, you'd have fucking guys hanging out in the sky upside down, someone in a rock, someone fucking floating above a rock, T-posing. The amount of infrastructure that would be needed would be like astro-fucking-nomical, especially if this is supposed to be like a classified lockdown fucking server, in order for them to pretty much try and get an artificially created life form to sentience. But they of course need backup, so they bring in pretty much their Gamer Force guys, and that was kind of cool because they of course got their time to do Spotlight. I mean, Klein gets a little bit of shit, but he still gets treated as a joke. So that's pretty much after what's been going, like Xenon coming down and like all of the rest of like the gamers coming in and pretty much murdering people. I'd be really pissed the fuck off if I was like told, oh, here's this thing that was beta test. Okay, you start playing the game. I'm having fun. Oh yeah, by the way, you're actually murdering fucking people. Well, I'm gonna always look into that shit. I'd be like, that, I don't know, sketchy ass beta's like, hey look, we're getting hacked by people. Yeah, I ain't fucking doing that because I don't know what the fuck's going on. But I would be fucking, ooh, no, that ain't cool. As we kind of see in certain Chinese players that come in like, this is kind of weird, and those people look like they're more on the defensive rather than going, you understand how certain, like, trolly edgelord motherfuckers would be, because Miller's kind of group is trying to paint it out that these are, like, edgy-ass motherfuckers being dickholes. However, when they get in there, it's like, this is not working out alright. Visago, he got back in and converted because Asuna fucking cacked his ass with a goddamn ravine. He's like, argh! He's able to, for some reason, control these people and make them angry and fucking pissed off and be like, argh! It's like, why is that able to work? I understand video game, virtual world, but of course you get into internet lag and fucking being able to affect people's moods and everything like that is kind of like fucking weird. It's like, what? Now, if you're in one of the fucking STL kind of things, and you're physically plugged in, and you're doing all that kind of shit, okay, you got a case on that shit. But when you've got a device that's not even rated for that fucking shit, that doesn't even do that fucking shit, like, my toaster could fucking shit out jelly beans, but it just doesn't do that spontaneously. Like, if I fucking wrote a line of code that said, toaster, shit out jelly beans, it's not gonna fucking magically do it if it isn't hardwired to fucking shit out jelly beans. I am coming up with some weird fucking shit today. What the hell? Okay. Sorry, just believability of the plot and the suspension of disbelief is an important thing. Because otherwise, you start going into this thing, and granted, you're okay with it in the moment, but when you start thinking about it, it's like, why the fuck are they able to be like, it's like, what? Why is that even working? it hurts a little bit. But it's still not as bad as certain other seasons. I'll definitely say that. So, he's able to pretty much rage them. They're pretty much having their battles. Asuna's pretty much trying to keep everything in check. Masago's like, yeah, I'm Poe, Prince of Hell, that was pretty much the Laughing Coffin's leader, and I pretty much like sold him out because I wanted to make Kirito into a killer. Which of course we do see he does have residual guilt and everything on that. I'm like, yes! Give us some things on that because he didn't like that. It's been traumatizing for him. I'm like, yeah, we kind of needed a little bit more of that. And then we get pretty much Super Saiyan Kirito Jesus Kun going. Brr. So, while this is going on, they're trying to pretty much fix everything else up. They kind of need Kirito into the battle now. Higa's able to work everything. He tries to take Asuna, Sinon, and Lipa's kind of like images of Kirito because evidently his mental image of himself is pretty much fucked up because he got electrified. They needed more work on that. But evidently that wasn't enough, and he was able to kind of like take the stuff from Yu-Gi-Oh as well, and Yu-Gi-Oh was able to help him out. I did like seeing more of that kind of stuff of Yu-Gi-Oh helping him through his trauma and kind of helping him kick ass. But Kirito was able to come back. He regrows his arm. He's able to dispense all the motherfuckers going like rah, and you're like, okay, and beats the fucking shit out of that Masago dude. It's actually a pretty good battle. I like that one. And then his just punishment for the dumb fuck is to turn him into a tree. I mean, like, yeah, you're just gonna be here forever. You're not be able to log out. You dumb cunt. It's like, yes. While this is going on, Sinon, of course, was battling Gabriel Miller. Well, she did kind of battle a little bit. It's like, I don't know if I can deal with this. Percoli, of course, goes and fights him as well, and is able to defeat him and get him to be logged out, but he dies in the process, and tells this one chick to be good to their child, which was kind of strange because I didn't even think that they'd pretty much been down fucking, and it's like, okay, weird, but alright. So Alice is like making her way to the World End altar. Kirito and Asuna decide to kind of fly over there and pretty much try and fix everything. Thing is, they've got a time limit now because Gabriel's dude Critter is like, alright, fine, let's gonna do this shit. And decides to put in maximum acceleration, pretty much accelerates the time that's already in there to like 200 years or whatnot. And it's like, okay, sure, fucking go for it. And Miller is now in with pretty much like his guns and shit like that. Sinon was actually able to do her gun kind of shit as well. But her and the rest of the guys are able to log out before the acceleration thing goes. Kirito has a pretty cool battle with the dude. Pretty much utilizing his more positive force over his negative force. And of course, Yu-Gi-Oh backing him up. And he takes out Miller. And the thing is, Miller thinks he's logged out, but he's dead. And the rest of the people that he's pretty much killed and murdered drag him to hell. It was kind of strange because you do have this concept of like, okay, is Kirito's real world even the real world? And I kind of would have liked them either to explore that further or to more tease that, because it's still just like, alright, okay? Because Alice even kind of brings that up because she gets logged out and like, oh yeah, you assholes. Oh, why should you AIs have rights? Like, you fucking created me. And how would you feel if your creator came down and said, hey, you to be slaves? And they're like, that would be fucking freaky. I'm like, yeah, so don't be a cunt and do that shit. But Kirito also like makes her dragons into eggs because they pretty much got fucked up by Gabriel. But they're able to log her out. Asuna decides to stay back because Kirito kind of gets there a little bit late, and they live like 200 years and they're doing shit. And evidently that would have strained the capacity of the Fluck Light, and I don't get how they kind of come up with that kind of limit. Mainly because, at least for most of the part, death usually comes more for like body breakdown, machine breakdown. We haven't really seen any of that kind of stuff with kind of like soul, whatnot. So you needed to do a little bit more work to have that come into effect. So that's kind of worked out. Kikuoka has to deal with like Miller's dead. Misaga's pretty much like dead as well. Crater pretty much like bugs it and tries to like blow up the reactor kind of thing. But they get help from fucking Akihiko Kayaba, the dude who made the Aincrad whole fucking thing, because evidently he's still alive in AI form and is in a robot and kind of stops the whole thing, but still bugs out. It's like, alright. It gets even weirder because at the end it's like, what the fuck? So they are able to get Kirito and Asuna out, but they have their memories wiped from it. It's like, up to the certain point, not the 200 years. They sometimes get flashes. Kirito is sad that he had that kind of shit wiped. And I'm just like, if they could have, like, why was everybody making a big kind of fucking deal out of this if they could have just mind wiped that shit so that way they don't get, like, completely fucked up? So they're pretty much trying to figure out what's going on with that. Alice is pretty much presenting herself to the world and just kind of wants to figure out what's going on and talks with Kirito about the real world and all that. It's like, okay, cool. Thing is, she's got like a metal body and everything, and it's like a really fucking good body. Like, I wouldn't be able to tell her from a human. And I'm like, okay. The thing is, they don't even, if you can have like the outside like that, you'd be able to give her like tears and shit like that. So they have a sword fight that actually works out pretty well, even though they like break their swords and like headbutt each other. It's like, all right, cool. But the thing is, it's pretty much just setting it up to like, Alice is in love with Kirito. And it's like, no fucking shit. But he's still in love with Asuna. So I don't mind it if like the conflict or drama went somewhere or did something. But no, this is just for Kirito the ass man, for his harem. It's just what it is. She kind of was like wondering why she should continue with all this kind of stuff, and Kirito's like, well, we've got the hopes and dreams of like everybody else, and I'm trying to like do that for everybody that I saw in the underworld and everybody that I've like connected to, and she kind of like takes solace from that and confidence from that and wants to do that herself to do those hopes and dreams for all the people that she has encountered as well. Like, alright, cool. While this is going on, we find out that Higa decided to make a copy of the fucking memories that Kirito had, and he actually fucking talks with it. He's like, yeah, because when we've seen copies of Floodlights before, they're like, I'm a copy, rah, and freak out, and fucking, like, evidently this one is just like, no, kind of thought that this would probably happen, and if Asuna got wiped, like, if Asuna wasn't wiped, but I was, she'd, like, wipe herself, but, if I did, I'd protect the Underworld. So, him and Kayaba fucking protect the Underworld, and, like, open up a pathway so that way Kirito, Alice, and them can fucking do it. It's like, oh god, so now, I was like, okay, how many fucking different kind of people would they kind of do villain route-wise for this? And it's like, oh, I guess this is setting up that Kirito is going to have to fight himself. Kirito versus AI Kirito. Which one's the real Kirito? Find out next time on Sword Art Online. Yes, I know I was riffing on Dragon Ball, but I'm like, at least Dragon Ball's stuff, like, got to a point where it understood itself and made fun of that certain shit, and it's just like, come on, almost there. Alright, let's see. So we're setting up with Kirito like that, because evidently there's going to be an inner intelligence fucking war. I'm like, alright. Because Kirito, Asuna, and Alice go back into the underworld, because Wrathla is like getting all screwed up. He woke up, pretty much fakes his death to pretty much make sure he can protect the underworld and all that, because it's under other kind of like control and all that shit. They get back into the underworld, and it's like in space, and they had to fight like an abyssal horror kind of thing, and they of course triple team that motherfucker while seeing pretty much their proteges in like space fucking fighter jets and shit. It's like, okay, evidently the underworld has changed a lot from going medieval fantasy shit to like mecha kind of shit. Now granted, it didn't transform Robotech style, but alright, cool. They're like figuring out what's going on. Evidently we got a stinger with of course the inter-intelligence war, that Kirito would be back having his original kind of Aincrad kind of setup going on, and it's just like, okay. So my main positives were that in at least this portion of Alicization, we definitely got some exploration of different characters because Kirito was out of action for a good chunk of it. And even when we did get Kirito back, they at least tried to explore kind of his trauma and try and work through his things, and he didn't automatically auto-win the whole thing. Granted, I wish there was kind of more of a struggle because that's kind of like the whole part and parcel of watching these things. Having a challenge for a character to figure out what they need to do and how they overcome it and that journey through to it. They just need to work on that more. Negatives were pretty much most of the usual kind of Sword Art Online stuff of like Kirito harem is just fucking there, popping up when it fucking feels like, tentacle rapey kind of stuff, and like plot holes that just you can start like dissecting as you're fucking taking it. Like, I didn't even have those kind of things in mind as I started this until we started and still I started fucking thinking about it. It's like, internet connections, actual tech that could actually do that kind of stuff to actually affect this mental state of a person connected to it. Yes. Issues. Also, the whole thing with the whole U.S. government going for it, because it just seemed like a really weird and convoluted way to do it. Plot had premise, had potential, needed fixes. It's not complete and utter crap, but there's a lot of things that were problematic that didn't need to be problematic in there. Different kind of streamline and things that needed to be like thought about. It's like, if this is so secret, why is it connected to the internet? That's a good question, employee Jim. I'm gonna show you the window. But we're underwater right now. Exactly. No! And that was the end of the employee. Oh. Now, even having that, I did have like emotional reactions to certain things because I was like, oh, okay, that's pretty cool, Yu-Gi-Oh! To do. I kind of felt what was going on with Elizabeth. I felt it. It wasn't like I was like a complete emotional mess, but then you start thinking about certain things and it's like, okay, yeah. I mean, they can do it when they feel like it. I'm like, okay, I get that with the Yu-Gi-Oh! I get that with your friend helping you. And, like, Yu-Gi-Oh! Being able to help and then seeing, like, Bercoli and fucking Administrator and, like, all these other people, I'm like, are they still in the system? What the fuck's going on here? Is it ghost shit or is it just fucking... These are the things that could have been explored. The cool kind of shit. And it's like, come on, people. The fuck? It's like, oh, this is some good shit. And harem tentacle things. I know I'm kind of harping on that. It's just like, okay, what did it add? Fuck all? Alright. Yep, sounds about right. So yeah, those are like my big kind of like breakdowns of what kind of happened, my kind of issues with certain things, the kind of things that I liked. Because hey, there's things that I liked in here. It wasn't completely all bad. So, those are my opinions on the anime. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also, like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.